They never said it out loud, but in my family I was only welcome as long as I stayed useful and out of the frame. My name is Grace Blake. I'm 29 years old, the oldest of three. I have a younger sister Rachel and a baby brother Eli. And for most of my life, I believed that if I worked hard enough, stayed quiet long enough, and helped often enough, maybe they'd let me exist in the picture too. Caroline, our mother, was the kind of woman who knew exactly what to say when people were watching. She had a talent for saying just enough to make us look polished. Rachel was her mirror-poised, photogenic soft where I was sharp. Rachel was the kind of daughter who fit on mantles and holiday cards. I was the one who took the photo, then drove someone to the airport, then picked up the dry cleaning on the way home. Eli, the youngest, was a quiet soul, kind, observant, and often forgotten in the emotional tug-of-war between Mom and Rachel. He stayed out of the line of fire. I never blamed him. From the outside, we were normal. People said so all the time. Such a lovely family. Your girls are beautiful, Caroline. We had the posed smiles, the Christmas cards, the photos in matching sweaters. But inside, I carried the weight of everyone's mistakes like it was my duty. When Rachel dropped out of her first job and needed a rent extension, I wired the money. When Mom forgot to pay the electric bill twice, I covered it without a word. They never thanked me. Not once. Not even a nod. And still, I kept thinking maybe one day they'd turn their heads and see me standing there, not as a shadow, not as a fixer, just Grace. Instead, the only time Mom ever really looked at me was when she adjusted my collar and said, "Why don't you try smiling a little more? You look severe in pictures." So I started stepping out of them, quietly. No one noticed. Not then. Not yet. Rachel got engaged on a Wednesday. I remember because I was in line at the pharmacy holding a bottle of shampoo and half listening to a toddler scream 2 aisles over when the text came through. A photo of her ring and the caption, "He did it." We weren't close, but I was happy for her. I texted back a sincere congratulations, asked how he proposed, told her I'd love to help with anything she needed. I even offered to cover part of the honeymoon quietly without announcement. Just a gift. Rachel didn't reply right away. When she did, it was one word TX. I let it go. Maybe she was overwhelmed. 2 weeks later, while I was finishing up emails at work, my phone rang. It was Mom Caroline Blake. Her name lit up the screen, and for a second I thought maybe she was calling to invite me to something. I picked up. She didn't say hello. "Don't even think about showing up to the wedding." Her voice was sharp, final. I blinked. I wasn't planning to make a speech or wear white mom. I was just going to show up. "Exactly," she said. Then her tone shifted into that syrupy softness she always used when saying something cruel. "Grace, you've never exactly looked the part. You dress like you're on your way to a job interview, an underpaid one, and you hover. It's unsettling." I felt the words slide under my skin. Every old bruise waking up at once. Then, from somewhere nearby, I heard Rachel's voice, light and laughing like none of this was real. "Tell her she can send a gift, though. She's still good for that, right?" I didn't say much after that. Just sat there, hand resting on the edge of my desk. All those years, all that effort, the money, the favors, the things I didn't say, the things I didn't ask for. All of it, and now I wasn't even allowed to sit in the background. I was the stain on their perfect photo. The one they didn't want to Photoshop. Just erase. And the worst part, they didn't even think I'd question it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream or call back or send a long, angry message. I didn't ask why. I already knew. Somewhere deep down, I'd always known. Instead, I smiled. It was the same smile I used to give managers who assumed I'd stay late without asking. A small, practiced thing. The kind of smile that lets people think you're folding when really you've already stepped away. That night, I logged into the travel portal where I'd scheduled Rachel's honeymoon package. I'd sent the Ford $200 transfer weeks ago, a quiet gift no one asked for, but that I thought might finally stitch me into the fabric of their lives. I reversed it in under 10 seconds. Then I took a screenshot. No caption, no anger. I sent it to Mom. A moment later, I added 4 words I wouldn't want to ruin anything. I knew she saw it. She always reads her messages even when she doesn't reply. That was the first step. Not revenge, just disengagement. Afterward, I closed my laptop, made myself tea, and sat on the couch in silence. Not the kind that screams or echoes, but the kind that hums gently when something's finally been put down. Later that night, I opened a folder I hadn't touched in months, my investment files. A while ago, after COVID shuttered half the events industry, I'd quietly bought into a handful of struggling venues. One of them stood out. Rosehaven Estate, white gazebo, manicured lawns, overpriced brunches, and Rachel's most recent Instagram post had it tagged with a giddy caption. Finally booked my dream venue, I stared at the screen, unmoving. Then I opened the contract, cross-checked the address, pulled the internal memo, confirmed my authority. Not only did I partially own Rosehaven, I had final approval power over all large-scale events, including weddings. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel anything yet. I just sat there, tea growing cold, thinking she booked a place I built. And still, they think I don't belong in the picture. I didn't rush. The next morning, I took my time, showered slowly, brewed good coffee, opened the Rosehaven documents one by one, like I was laying out linens. I wasn't angry, just attentive. In a way, I hadn't allowed myself to be for a long time. The reservation for Rachel's wedding had been confirmed. The guest count, the catering details, even the string quartet, they were all there. The contract was signed 6 months ago under Jason's name, her fiancé. That's when I saw it, page 9, line 15. A clause I'd insisted on including when we restructured after the pandemic, full payment due 10 calendar days prior to scheduled event. Failure to comply constitutes forfeiture of booking without refund. Not delay, not penalty. Forfeiture. I checked the wedding date again, April 27th. Today was the 15th. 12 days. I clicked through the payment history. The deposit had gone through months ago, but the final payment, the one that locked everything in, was missing. It hadn't even been initiated. I leaned back, fingers laced over my stomach, and stared at the ceiling. I could have texted Rachel. Just a simple line, "Hey, your balance is due." But the echo of her voice was still there, laughing just off screen. Tell her she can still send a gift. So I did nothing, not out of spite, out of clarity. I didn't need to move any pieces. The board was already set. They thought I was out of the game, but I owned the table. For the next 2 days, I watched as Rachel posted dress fittings, centerpiece options, group chats filled with RSVP gifts. I watched Mom upload countdown photos to Facebook. 12 days until our baby girl walks down the aisle, no one contacted me. No one even pretended. And yet, part of me kept glancing at my phone, expecting something. Not an apology, just a flicker of recognition. A maybe, a crack in the silence. But there was nothing, just the old hum of being unseen, the one I'd known all my life. Only this time I wasn't reaching for the light. I was letting them sit in the dark. On the morning of April 17th, I let myself sleep in. When I woke, the sky was soft and gray, the kind of weather that made you want to stay quiet. I made breakfast eggs, toast, nothing fancy, and checked my inbox with a calm I didn't fully trust. Still no payment, no message. Just silence. Around noon, Emma called. She's the senior coordinator at Rosehaven and one of the few people in this business I trust. She didn't know the whole story, only that the Carson wedding, Rachel had taken Jason's last name early. Even on the booking, hadn't paid their final balance. Her tone was light, but I heard the tension under it. "Hey Grace, just following up on the Carson account. I've sent 2 reminders. No response. We're inside the 10-day window now, just wanted to check how you'd like to proceed." I didn't pause. "Follow the contract," I said. Emma hesitated. "You sure they've got vendors lined up? A whole dove release during vows? It's elaborate." "So are the rules," I replied. She gave a soft laugh. "All right, deadline's midnight." I hung up and stared at my phone for a long while. Not out of doubt, but habit. I'd spent so many years anticipating their chaos, prepping for emergencies that weren't mine, plugging holes no one thanked me for fixing. But this time, I didn't move. I didn't warn them. I didn't send a nudge or a gentle reminder or a quiet rescue. They'd made it clear I wasn't family, not photo-worthy, not invitation-worthy, just a bank account with legs. So I let the clock run out. That night, at 12:01 a.m., the booking was automatically marked as void in our system. A clean flag. The space was now officially closed to them. I didn't celebrate. I just turned off the lights, brushed my teeth, and went to bed early. It was the first time in years I'd slept without checking my phone for someone else's emergency. And for the first time, I was the only one awake in my story. The next afternoon, my phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, it rang again, same number. I picked up on the third try. "Hi, is this Grace?" the woman asked, breathless. "This is Teresa. I'm Rachel's wedding planner. We're just trying to sort out a little issue with Rosehaven. There seems to have been a payment error. We think it's a glitch." I leaned back in my chair, looking out the window. "There's no glitch, Teresa. The final payment deadline was yesterday. The account wasn't settled. The booking was released automatically." Silence. I could hear something muffled in the background, raised voices, a slammed door maybe. Then she came back on her tone thinner. "But surely there's something we can do. It's her wedding day. Guests are flying in." "I understand," I said gently. "But the contract is the contract. You've already been given 2 reminders." She stammered something I didn't catch. Then hung up. Not even an hour passed before Caroline called. "Grace?" No hello. No pause. "What is going on with the venue? Rachel is hysterical. They said the booking was canceled because of you." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cancel anything. They missed a deadline. The system handled the rest." "But you knew," she snapped. "You could have said something." "You mean I could have stepped in and fixed it again like always?" There was a long beat of static. Then her voice turned cold. "Do you really hate your sister that much?" "No," I said slowly. "I just finally stopped letting you treat me like I'm disposable." I could hear her breath catch. "You said I'd ruin the photos, so I took myself out of the picture." She didn't respond, just hung up. A few minutes later, Rachel texted me. No greeting, no emoji. Just, "You seriously couldn't have warned us." Then a second message. "Wow, bitter much." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because the venue was gone. The vendors were pulling out. The doves were staying in their cages. And they still didn't know I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Saturday arrived with the kind of weather brides dream about. Cool air, pale sun. The lake at Rosehaven still as glass. Soft wind threading through early spring blossoms. I woke up early not out of anxiety, but out of something else. Curiosity, maybe. Or peace. I brewed coffee, ironed a shirt I had no plans to wear, sat by the window, feet tucked under me, and watched as it all began to fall apart. The first post came from one of Rachel's bridesmaids. A selfie-confused expression car window behind her. "Is the venue locked? No one's answering the gate." I refreshed the tag. Another post-groomsman pacing beside rental cars. A little girl asleep in the back seat, tiara slipping sideways. Rachel's college roommate asking if she'd gotten the wrong date. The gate remained closed. No one had warned the guests. That was the part I hadn't expected. I thought Rachel or Mom would at least send a last-minute cancellation text, try to save face. But they didn't. They were so sure someone would show up and fix it. They were still waiting for the cleanup crew. Then came the post that made me smile. A series of professional photos posted by Emma Rosehaven's coordinator. Long tables draped in white. A dessert bar under a custom arch. A pyramid of champagne glasses. The caption read, "Honored to host a beautiful spring luncheon today for a thriving local team. Hashtag private event corporate luxury booked out." In the corner of one image, nearly out of frame, sat Rachel's Etsy-made wooden sign. She'd had it hand-painted in calligraphy "Forever starts here." Now it read, "Success starts here." I stared at it for a long time, coffee warm in my hands. Aunt Lydia messaged me that afternoon. "Hi, sweetheart. I just wanted to check in. Rachel's devastated. Your mom is beside herself." I stared at her text before replying. She said I'd ruin her photos. I took that seriously. No one else messaged after that. At least not until the group chat lit up that evening. Not mine, their family thread. A cousin forwarded screenshots, mom blaming Emma, blaming the venue, blaming Mercury in retrograde. Rachel chimed in with her usual poison. She's always been jealous. That one hit, not like a slap, like a sigh. Jealous of what? Of always standing behind the lens of being erased and told to smile about it. No, I wasn't jealous. I was done. She showed up the next morning, no warning, no text, just sharp knocks, 3 of them, like the door owed her something. When I opened it, Caroline Blake stood there, breath tight, blazer-wrinkled mascara dried into the creases under her eyes. "You think this proves something?" she hissed. I didn't flinch. "No," I said. "I know it does." She stared at me, waiting for the version of Grace she remembered. The one who apologized just for breathing too loud. The one who'd clean up the mess before anyone asked. But that version had stopped answering the door. "You humiliated your sister." I looked at her for a long time. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, just less towering. "She humiliated me," I said. "You did too, for years." She opened her mouth, maybe to deny it. I didn't give her the space. "I bought the venue. I paid for the honeymoon. I covered bills you never admitted missing. I carried this family so quietly you all forgot there was weight involved." Her jaw clenched. "We didn't mean—" "You meant every bit of it," I cut in. "Every time you left me out of the frame. Every time you pretended I wasn't worth standing next to. You just didn't think I'd stop showing up." She took a step forward like she wanted to argue, like she had a speech prepared. I didn't let her use it. "You said I'd ruin the pictures, so I took myself out, and then I took the frame." She stood there trembling, but nothing came. No apology, no tearful moment, just silence. Finally, I added one more thing, not bitter, not sharp, just truth. "You can tell Rachel I'm not angry. I'm free. That's a better gift than anything on her registry." Then I closed the door. Gently. No slam, no final word. Only the soft click of something finished. A month passed, then 2. No calls, no olive branches, no sudden awakenings. And that was fine. I started having dinner with Eli twice a week. Just the 2 of us. No tension, no performance. We talked about work movies, things we missed in each other's lives. Sometimes we even laughed about the great wedding disaster, as he quietly started calling it. He'd called me the day after I pulled the honeymoon fund. "If they're going to act like you don't exist," he said, "then I'm not pretending they're saints." He never raised his voice, never took sides, just showed up. That was enough. Every now and then, I'd get a quiet message from someone who'd been at the venue. A cousin, an old neighbor, a vendor. They never said it directly, but the tone was always the same. "I saw what you did. I get it. You were right to step out." I didn't need their validation. I didn't need anything really, because I finally had something I hadn't tasted in years. Peace. Not the fragile kind that depends on keeping everyone happy. The kind that comes from knowing you don't owe anyone your silence anymore. I didn't post. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. They had built their lives on perfect angles, poses, and filters, and curated moments. They thought erasing me would protect their picture. Instead, what I gave them was a truth they couldn't crop out. No one remembered Rachel's dress. They remembered waiting in heels outside a locked gate. They remembered champagne flutes served to strangers. They remembered asking, didn't they have help? And eventually someone whispered, maybe Rachel isn't the victim here. That was enough. They tried to write me out of the picture. So I took the frame, and I burned it.